You are listening to Mountain Murders Offbeat. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
How's it going, Dylan?
Oh, well, it's kind of sucks.
You got that midweek suck going on?
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to call it?
Yeah, the midweek suck.
The midweek suck.
Not in a good way.
Well, if you're feeling low energy today, I know you've been working on little sleep. I will be the pep in your step.
Oh, my God. Are you going to be the caffeine in my coffee?
If you would like me to be.
Wow.
I am ready. I'm energized. Let's do this.
I'm ready, too. Fuck that noise.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, I am.
You're just like, fuck it, we're going to do this?
Yeah, we're going to do this, dude. I'm so excited to be here.
Excited. He's excited, so that definitely is a good sign.
And just glad to be back with our listeners.
Hells to the Yale. Okay, so we live in a time when it's hard to separate facts from conspiracy theories, from news, the real world, fiction. Conservatives, including President Trump, called real news fake news, while QAnon and other fringe groups tout batshit level crazy theories about government cover-ups at the highest level. But there's been a long and curious case of conspiracy theories, particularly when it comes to the entertainment industry.
That's true. And that's some of the stranger ones I've never heard revolve around the entertainment industry.
Celebrity conspiracies are no different than the wild government conspiracies we hear so often today that have just quickly spread through social media. This is going to kick off our series on celebrity conspiracy theories, Dylan. We are going to be pumping out a couple of weeks of Offbeat episodes dedicated to some of the more outrageous celebrity conspiracy theories.
Oh my gosh. And listeners, before you turn that dial off, some of these you may have never heard, and it's not full-blown reptilian overlords or inner earth bullshit.
It's not? We're not going to talk about that stuff?
Oh.
Well, damn, Dylan, you just rained on my parade.
Well, maybe we are, because, Heather does drive this ship.
We're going to talk about all sorts of things.
Yeah, but some of these, I think people...
Clones, murders, the Illuminati.
I think some of these people may not have heard of. So they got to give us a chance.
Okay, are you ready to get into today's conspiracy theory?
Yes.
Celebrity conspiracy.
I'm wearing my lead underwear to protect myself.
I have on my tinfoil hat. I'm ready. One of the earliest celebrity conspiracy theories with staying power involves Paul McCartney from The Beatles.
Now, this is one of the stranger ones that I'd never heard of. And when you hear it at first, you're like, oh, yeah, whatevs. But there's some rather compelling points to it.
Well, I remember first hearing about this conspiracy theory when I was in college. I had a public speaking class, and we all had to do like a PowerPoint presentation, and it could be on any subject. And one of the other students actually did his PowerPoint presentation on this Paul McCartney conspiracy theory. I'd never heard it. I was like, what the hell? Go back, of course, to the dorm room. We didn't have Google back then. We had Yahoo.
You got on Yahoo?
Netscape. I was like Netscaping that shit, looking it up. My roommate was a big Beatles fan at the time, or, she's been a Beatles fan. And I was like, have you heard this before? So we're both like, what the hell? Like looking into all the stuff, and it just blew my mind.
So you find yourself in like shady chat rooms asking questions?
Well, yeah, something like that. Now I'll be upfront. I'm not the biggest Beatles fan. I think I went through a period when I was like 16 where I thought, oh, wow, the Beatles, and was into their music for about a week and then moved on to something else. I'm not going to say I don't like the Beatles. There are a handful of songs that, of course, they're like the old standbys.
Yeah. Well, I think they just struck at the right time, that it was different enough from what people were getting that it was, it was a big sensation. Mm. But in retrospect, and my mom would smack me if she was here, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not just totally blown away by the Beatles. There's some really cool songs. I think Maxwell's Silver Hammer is maybe my favorite Beatles song.
Your mom was a big Beatles fan?
Yeah, she was. She was digging it.
Your mom's a hippy dippy.
Yeah, she
was like all swept up in that counterculture.
Yeah,
of the 60s.
You wonder where I get it from.
Well, your name is Bob Dylan.
And I rail against the system daily.
We're really not kidding. His name is Robert Dylan, so he's Bob Dylan.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah, but yeah, they got some cool songs. I'm not a super fan.
Happiness is a Warm Gun. I think it's probably one of my favorites.
Oh. I don't know if I've heard that.
Oh,
one.
I'll play it for you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds like a sexual position or something.
Happiness is a Warm Gun.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do that as soon as we wrap up the podcast.
Oh my
wink,
God.
wink. Okay.
My knees, I got to let you know my trick knees acting up.
Oh, gosh. Such an old man. Okay, my geriatric friend, are you ready to get into this? Okay, so we are going to be talking about Paul McCartney from the Beatles. The English rock band was formed in Liverpool in 1960, and the best-known members included, of course, John Lennon, Ringo Starr, George Harrison, and the heartthrob, Paul McCartney. You know, he was like the cute one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess so, because he was less ugly than the other guys.
Really? I kind of thought George Harrison was sexy a little bit.
Okay, maybe I can't picture George Harrison's face, but I can Lennon and Ringo.
Many consider them the most influential band of all time, with their music ushering in the counterculture of the decade. Now, in 1967, a conspiracy theory popped up alleging that the primary songwriter, singer, band member, Paul McCartney had died in a car crash on November 9th of 1966 after having a fight with his bandmates during a recording session. Angry Paul sped away on M1 motorway only to meet his demise in a wreck that would cause his decapitation.
Oh.
Jane Mansfield style.
I don't have to listen to this, John. You know I write all the songs.
Well, I guess John wrote some of them.
Oh, I'm the real talent.
Well, he was.
I think Paul was.
Why?
Before he died.
Well, I think he was the talent. Now he just looks like a Scandinavian grandmother.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at, he went on to have a pretty substantial solo career.
He did.
And
Wings, and then of course his solo career.
Yeah, but so I guess the doppelganger Paul is talented as well.
Yeah. Well, according to legend, the Beatles rushed to fill Paul's space by holding a lookalike contest in which a guy named William Campbell, an orphan from Edinburgh, was his replacement. Also, there's a rumor that a guy named Billy Shears was Paul. Is it MI5?
Oh, it's MI6.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Well, everything I resourced said MI5.
Oh, well, you're talking about the British Secret Service or the British CIA intelligence service.
Yeah, well, one thing described it almost as like a Homeland Security agency.
Okay.
Well, anyway, MI5?
Yeah, maybe they have different,
Right.
MI6 is like the FBI and MI5 is like this, National Security. Blah,
So
blah,
the
blah.
MI5 British organization instigated replacing Paul for fear of how the British citizens would react to Paul's death.
Yeah, so they were worried about mass suicides and things like that, right?
Yeah, it would cause a hysteria because the Beatles, in the words of John Lennon, were bigger than God.
Well, I mean, you've seen some pretty big sensations since the Beatles, a lot. But I'm telling you, Beatlemania, when you watch those videos and stuff, it was
something else.
It was pretty wild. I mean, the people were losing their damn minds.
Can we not all agree Oasis is the greatest British band since the Beatles? Can we not agree on this? Have you seen that SNL skit?
No.
Like the Parliament skits from the 90s with Mike Myers, and he'll be like, I don't think England cares about anything as frivolous as dental care. And he's like the horrible Austin Powers teeth. Okay, well, they're funny-ass SNL skits. So if you have an opportunity, you need to look those up on YouTube.
Well, that sounds stereotypical of English people and their dental care.
And then someone, I think it might be Will Ferrell, keeps standing up going, can we not agree Oasis is the best? And then someone else is like, I'm wearing ladies' underwear. And then it's like, I'm still wearing ladies' underwear. Anyway, it's really funny.
I will check those out.
Yeah. With those who spread the conspiracy were convinced the remaining bandmates felt overwhelming guilt about Paul's death and left secret clues in songs and album covers. In 1967, the Beatles were backmasking their music so people would analyze the hidden messages.
Ooh. Is it like Satan is your ruler?
Yeah.
Satan is your ruler.
Eat cheese. Yeah, things like that.
Oh, my gosh.
With the release of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, fans pored over the album art, finding clues which would reaffirm their notion that Paul is dead. Which, that is a busy album cover.
Which one?
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that people will take the time to dive in on the symbolism presented on this album cover. But some of the theories are very interesting. I will give them credit for creativity. When looking at the album cover, you might notice the three other members, John, Ringo, George, are standing at an angle, but Paul is facing directly head on at the camera. And it's almost like he's being propped up or supported by his bandmates. There's a hand over Paul's head as if he is being blessed by a priest. There is a Shirley Temple doll on the album cover, and she's wearing a Welcome the Rolling Stones sweater because the Stones were alleged to have helped with the cover-up. This also suggests that without the Beatles around, the Stones would have been the #1 band out of England. And so this is a way to thank them.
Oh, really?
Like, thank you for keeping your silence so we can still be the biggest band, even though Paul is dead.
So they just gave him a little head nod on that one.
I mean, there are so many clues on this album. I mean, I'm only touching just like a handful of these. A model Aston Martin is leaning against the doll's leg, and that's the kind of car that Paul was driving. And the interior of the Aston Martin is red, and this is supposed to symbolize like the blood-soaked crash. Because again, he was decapitated.
Well, yeah,
allegedly.
There would be blood everywhere.
And there's like a cloth grandmother figure that's resting in the doll's lap, and it's wearing a bloody driver's glove.
That's kind of weird. I mean, so let's say Paul didn't die, and this is all bullshit. This is some pretty weird, cobbled together stuff on this album cover. I mean, some of it's got to mean something to the band, right?
Well, it does, but I guess you also have to consider this is like the late 60s. This is when the band starts experimenting with psychedelics.
AKA drugs.
Right? I mean, and that was like the big thing in the late 60s. And
well, that's true.
You had people dropping acid, mushrooms, all sorts of psychedelics, hallucinogenics. And if you've ever taken any of these psychedelics and you know from experience what they do to you, and then you check out this album cover, it wouldn't be so difficult to see how they could come to decide this would be the art they would use.
Well, yeah, I could see that.
Because,
even with that in mind, that your consumers are into these similar types of things. You got the posters and the black lights and all that stuff that some people that trip a lot get into. So yeah, I could see them maybe doing that for that reason.
Well, that, or maybe they just had some weird acid fever dream. And they were like, hey, we have a great idea for the album art.
I need a disembodied hand over Paul's head.
I need a little doll holding a bloody driver's glove.
I bet our UK listeners are like, oh my God.
They probably are.
They're
sorry,
going
guys.
to do their shitty English accent too many times this episode.
No, I'm not.
I'm not doing it. I'm trying not to do it anymore unless I have a really good point to make. I promise.
Shiva image, like the Shiva goddess.
Is that the one with the multiple arms?
Like 6 arms, I think. So that represents death and destruction, and Shiva appears on this album cover. There's a television to the right of the Beatles, and it's turned off, which people think suggests that the news on Paul's death was mute.
Okay.
Like, it got no coverage because it was covered up. There are so many clues that I could literally spend all day discussing them, but we don't have 8 hours for this podcast. We only have a short time.
No, and
because I don't think anybody wants to listen to us talk for 8 hours.
Well, maybe there's a couple that do, but I think we'd run out of shit to say.
No, I mean, we could literally talk about the album cover clues for like 8 hours.
Just
There's
this
so many.
Just this one album cover?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
I mean, people have broken it down, like each individual object in, that appears in this photograph and what all it means and the symbolism behind it. And I mean, it just goes on and on, Dylan.
The skeptic in me is going to say, if this did happen, you brought up a lookalike, which, I mean, lookalikes have been used in many...
Doppelgangers?
Yeah, doppelgangers. They've been used by politicians, by, warlords and kings.
In movies, we've got the body doubles because, like in Flashdance,
well, yeah,
there's like a body double.
But people have really done that throughout the ages for various reasons. But if you do go through all this and arrange all this, are you going to make a clue-ridden album cover, or are you just going to make a cool, regular album cover that doesn't kind of, pique people's interest in this form? Or you think you're being cheeky by doing something like this, like putting it out there in plain sight with your little clues?
I'm very lazy, so I'm probably going to go with not putting this out in clues because I don't want to have to sit and think of all the fun secrets for people to figure out.
Well, but I could see someone
who's more ambitious than me, like say the Beatles, that they could do this.
Lennon, the way he, maybe his brain worked, maybe leaning into something like this. So that's this conspirator in me thinks that, and be like, oh, it's like our inside, not so much a joke, but just our inside knowledge.
In the 1968 song Glass Onion, John Lennon sings, "Here's another clue for you all. The walrus was Paul." And so people think that has some hidden meaning. Now, during this time, the conspiracy is catching steam. Paul has been out of public view for a while. He, along with his wife and 2 daughters, were living on their farm in Scotland. And at the time, Paul didn't care for the new business manager named Alan Klein. Plus, he just had a new baby. Mary was born August of 1969. He had this renewed focus on family life.
Okay.
And he would later say, he spent 10 years in the public spotlight every day being photographed, weekly interviews, and that he just wanted some time to live life.
Well, I mean, given all the fame, fortune, I'm sure at first that's super cool, but I could see that getting old pretty quickly. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't just, drive somewhere and do something you enjoy or something you want to try out without this big production and people flipping out and having to have security team and entourages and like you're literally handled by people, grabbed and, oh, no, go this way, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that probably gets old after a while.
So he wants to focus on family life. He's married Linda at this point. He has the 2 daughters. The band was also having some problems. I mean, they were headed for a breakup because Lennon wanted to work on solo career stuff, and the band knew that. So it was just an awkward time for Paul. He said he felt isolated, and he also had some animosity toward his bandmates. So he decided to go into seclusion for a bit. Further fueling the rumor was that the Beatles had retired from public performance, and their revamped image on the Sgt. Pepper album was one thing, but then when they released Abbey Road, it brought on a whole new set of clues.
Well, after you go through some of that, I'll give you some thoughts. I mean, because it's always in a certain way that's what keeps making this stand out for people.
Abbey Road supposedly resembled a funeral procession, with John Lennon wearing white to represent the Heavenly Father. Ringo Starr is dressed in all black, signifying the Undertaker, while George Harrison's denim attire is that of a gravedigger. A barefoot Paul represents the corpse. He is also holding a cigarette in his right hand, and he's left-handed, by the way. And this is allegedly a clue to let people know that this Paul is an imposter.
So, yeah, you got all of them, let alone with their outfits. They're all wearing shoes except Paul. They said it was a very hard shot to get because I think that's a very, very busy road.
Paul is also out of step with the other members of the band, and that's also, according to conspiracy theorists, a clue that, again, he's not in sync with the band because Paul is dead.
Well, once again, you have the other 3 in a certain way and Paul in his own way. Just Paul is either facing forward or he's the only one with no shoes. I didn't know all that about the outfits, but I guess some people are imaginative or have a lot of time on their hands.
Exactly. Are you ready for more?
Yeah. Is there more on Abbey Road's cover?
Of course. So there's a Volkswagen Beetle that appears in the background with the tag LMW28IF. People look at this as he would have been 28 if he were alive. So 28 if. And the LMW means either Linda McCartney weeps or Linda McCartney widow.
Oh.
Yeah. To continue the wildfire spread of the story was when an editor of Drake University's Drake Times Delphic, the guy is named Tim Harper, he wrote an article entitled, "Is Beatle Paul Dead?" Now, normally a student newspaper article, and by the way, this is a university in Iowa, nobody would take a student newspaper article seriously. It would go unnoticed. But given the interest and the climate of the 1960s, this article took off. And you have to consider this was a time of anti-establishment feelings related to the U.S. government, feelings about Vietnam, Kent State, and this is the counterculture.
Civil rights movement.
So people are definitely not trusting of their government, and it was just a time when they could really buy into this conspiracy theory.
Oh, you just nailed it on the head. Maybe that's why there's such a seeming rise of conspiracy theory talk nowadays, because we're in a similar position.
I think definitely. So these were ripe times for believing in madness. Then the London Daily Mirror picked up this story, and then they reported that Paul was dead on September 23rd of 1967 or whatever, and that the world mourned. So they picked up this story as well and reported it.
That's pretty funny.
And then on October 12th of 1969, a caller phoned DJ Russ Gibb with WKNR-FM in Detroit, Michigan, to discuss the details of Paul's death and the Beatles' cover-up. Now, this quickly spread across the United States. So not only do we have this college newspaper questioning, is Paul dead? But then you have this big rock station in Detroit, which we all know, Motor City, Detroit Rock City. So, of course, Detroit radio is a big deal. This person's calling in with all these details. And this, just caused a huge spread across the U.S., and particularly on college campuses. Then the radio show aired a 2-hour program called The Beatle Plot, and that was about a week later on October the 19th.
WKNFR, The Road Rage. Oh.
You do a great radio voice, Dylan.
You think so?
I think you could have one of those zoo radio programs.
You think I could be like, welcome back to the pit?
Where you have all the sound effects
Yeah. I totally wish I've been asking you to get me a soundboard.
Like it's a jungle out there.
And you've told me explicitly that I'm not allowed to have a soundboard on Mount Murders. But I am going to get one of those slide whistles.
Do it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go old school, and I'm going to get physical props.
Please do.
Because you can't stop that.
Well, we have the little monkey that drums, the little retro toy. You can use that.
Oh, it could be for drum rolls and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to work this in later.
So something else is that the song Strawberry Fields supposedly had Lennon singing, "I buried Paul." But he would deny this and say the lyric is cranberry sauce.
Oh, I could see those two getting confused.
I buried Paul, cranberry sauce.
Cranberry sauce.
So I guess my question is, why the fuck are you talking about cranberry sauce in a song? That's weird.
Well, let alone a song about strawberry fields.
Yeah. Turkey and cranberry sauce forever.
Get your fruit straight, dude.
By October 24th, BBC Radio had reached out to Paul McCartney for an interview, hoping to clear up this rumor. However, it did little to discourage conversation about Paul being dead. Then a Life magazine reporter and photographer showed up at his Scotland farm unannounced, leading to a very pissed off Paul McCartney, swearing at them and then throwing a bucket of water on the two.
It's like the 6'3" big grotesque doppelganger that's not even close to Paul's size comes out and threatens him. He was like, "I'm Paul McCartney." He'd be like, "You're not."
It's like Mr. T comes out.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I pity the fool. I'm Paul McCartney." And he's got a gold chain and it's like
yeah, and he's a big black man with a beard.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "You're not Paul McCartney.
You're Mr. T. Where's the rest of the A-team?" And then they all pop up and you've got Murdoch and
Mouth.
Yeah, all
or
of
wait,
them.
Murdoch, Face, Hannibal.
Yeah.
And shit, what was Mr. T? Oh my God, I just got my man card pulled. B.A. Baracus.
Yeah, and then like Here Comes the A-Team Van, and it's like that song. Can't do it.
Dun, dun, dun,
That's it.
dun, 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 dun. Man, I want that van.
I do too.
Okay.
Okay, so the photographer captured this encounter with like Paul throwing water on them. And Paul McCartney takes some time. He cools off. And then he's like, look, guys, I will trade an interview with you for that film. Because he didn't want to spoil his reputation or make people think like Paul McCartney's an asshole.
Or he wasn't in full performance mode. And he didn't quite look like Paul in the picture.
Oh.
Oh, shit.
The Life magazine appearance did sway some people that Paul was still alive. A CBS News crew had secretly filmed him earlier working on the farm, and he was looking unshaven and scruffy. So that kind of further like led people to think that this isn't the real Paul because he's got like this beard and he's got long hair. So when he appeared in this Life magazine article, he was clean cut, looking fresh, not wearing like grungy farm clothes, was like decked out, looking stylish, looking fly, looking like Paul McCartney.
Ah, got his makeup on.
By November of 1969, Capitol Records was reporting huge sales increases in Beatle albums. So this whole Paul is dead thing like sparked record sales.
Well, and that could work. I could see that happening.
In 1970, Paul McCartney released a solo album, but shortly before this, when he was releasing this album, it kind of led to the official announcement that the Beatles band was over.
Oh, no.
A year later, John Lennon released a song called How Do You Sleep, which attacked McCartney and his character. He said the conspiracy theorists were freaks who were right when they said you were dead.
Ooh. So they're having like it's like rap beefs. They're going back and forth in the songs, or does Paul participate in this?
Paul doesn't really participate.
No, I couldn't imagine.
And, you know, I might offend people out there, but I don't really like John Lennon, and I think he was a little bitch. So, of course, he's going to come with, like, a song. Because he's just...
Well, I'll tell you
like
what.
him.
He got really, really full of himself.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know if it was all the drugs and the stuff on
Well,
top
and the
of the
fame,
fame.
yeah.
Because they were worldwide famous, super famous. And then Yoko, I mean, come on. I mean, just some of the stuff I've heard they said and did.
You mean Wacko Ono?
In the later years, I'm just like, calm down, people. I mean, really, get a hold of yourself.
Yeah, and John Lennon's a wife beater and just a piece of shit.
Oh, he's a wife beater?
Yeah, well, we won't get into all that. So anyway, he was like, you know, beefing with McCartney, saying like, they were right when they said you were dead. The strained relationship between the two was finally reconciled in 1974. Though they did not remain close friends, the pair were affable until Lennon's assassination in 1980. In 1981, McCartney sang backup vocals on George Harrison's tribute song, All Those Years Ago, which saw the three remaining members reunite. So you had Ringo, Paul, and George Harrison on this tribute song. Then McCartney released a song called Here Today in 1982, which was about his friendship with John Lennon.
Oh, interesting.
Now, the Beatles remain the best-selling band of all time with over 600 million sales worldwide. In 1988, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And as I mentioned before, and most people know, John Lennon was murdered in 1980, and Harrison died of lung cancer in 2001. Ringo and Paul are still alive, as far as we know. It's the real Paul.
Wait a minute.
And
They've all been dead the entire time.
And they both remain active in making music.
Didn't Michael Jackson buy the Beatles' whole, all the rights to their songs, all their shit?
I believe
at some point.
I believe so.
When he was flexing his
and there was
mega
some
money.
serious debate about that, but I believe he did purchase their songbook. Because then the Beatles, like McCartney and the rest of the guys, were up in arms because I'm pretty sure Michael Jackson sold Revolution to Nike.
I think
and
so.
And they used it in a commercial.
Yeah.
And I feel like the band was really pissed off. Like the song Revolution is not about fucking running shoes.
Well, I hate to say it, but, once somebody purchases your, whatever the copyrights or whatever to your music, there's a word eluding me that means that whole collection. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Like the publishing. rights
yeah,
or
it's like
something?
shit. Somebody's out there screaming at their phone right now, like, you dumb fuck. It's
Well,
this.
we are.
No, but
Make no
so
bones about
there's
that.
not you might not like it as an artist, and I think some new discussions have come up about that. People owning more of their own music and their creations, which I agree with. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's business.
Well, and I feel like Paul McCartney was very upset about this because he felt like it was a huge betrayal because he and Jackson had been friends, or he considered Michael Jackson a friend because remember they recorded The Girl Is Mine
Oh yeah,
together. They had the duet and that they were somewhat friendly. So then when the songbook or whatever came up for auction, and, McCartney and, I guess he had intentions of buying back this material. And then here Michael Jackson swoops in
yeah, and he's got hundreds of millions of dollars.
and, buys it out from under them or something.
Oh,
I just
well-
remember it causing some bad blood.
Yeah, he also bought the Elephant Man's bones, so at least you're in that category. That's
Yeah.
a pretty eclectic collection.
Yeah. I feel like you would buy the Elephant Man's bones if you were rich.
Yeah, I would buy. No, I think I bought a Lobster Man's bones if they were for sale.
The Lobster Man?
Yeah,
Do you mean Grady Stiles?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they're for sale though.
Probably not.
No, his family might not appreciate that.
No, probably not. Dylan.
I would totally display his hands and stuff.
Dylan Packer, politically correct young man on the podcast.
Am I? I'm not being.
No.
Oh.
I think
well,
people will come to expect that you, Dylan, are just going to say whatever enters your brain and that there's not much filtering or much thought about, is this something appropriate that I should say or is this an inappropriate statement? I think people have just come to accept that this is just Dylan. It's okay.
Well, and see, but in my mind, I'm being all inclusive because if we can talk, just easily talk about the Elephant Man's bones. Why can't I, bring in Grady and call him Lobster Man?
It's cool.
I probably shouldn't, though.
He was actually Lobster Boy.
Lobster Boy.
Is what he was known as. But I'm glad that you have graduated him to being Lobster Man.
Well, see, you got to grow up at some point.
You do.
And that's when he was mean. He was a really mean
And then
guy.
that just makes me think of the B-52 song Rock Lobster because it's like my jam.
Oh, my God.
Rock Lobster! Yeah, yeah. I even have like a dance that I do.
I believe you did that in the car just the other day.
Yeah, I did. You're so lucky.
So, what's your real thoughts on... That's an awful big conspiracy that's going to take, more than just a couple of people to, the people closest are going to know. The people that's worked closely with the band, the people in Paul's life. That's just a lot of people to get on board. That's the one thing people say about stuff like JFK, which I'm not saying I truly believe everything said about JFK. Something weird was going on.
You mean his assassination?
Yeah, his assassination and things. You got to get a lot of people on board with these huge conspiracies, and they got to stay quiet. Then no one ever breaks ranks and talks.
Well, I have to say, okay, if we're discussing conspiracy theories of yesteryear, of yore, I think it would be easier to get people of certain generations maybe on board with these cover-ups or these lies. Because I feel like people were much more like loyal or devoted, or they were like people of their word back then.
Right.
And today, people are just selfish shitheads, and all they think about is me, me, me. So if they were presented with this thought that they could get 15 minutes of fame or they could make like large amounts of money, they're going to like rat out all the info they have.
So that makes sense. What you're saying, it'd also be easier to pull off when they controlled media and the narrative more so.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
Because today we have social media, so it's so easy to be a citizen paparazzi, right? Out on the street.
It's
like
true.
Spreading this shit. I mean, that's how like these QAnon conspiracies have just gone wild. There's so much access to, via globalization. We've got internet, everybody's in constant contact.
Somebody be on TikTok like up in Paul's face, like, see, that's not Paul. That's not Paul. I told
right.
you.
But back then, you're right. I mean, it was so much easier to control the narrative.
Ah, interesting.
Do I think Paul McCartney is dead? No. But I have to say, I found some photos of this so-called William Campbell.
Did he look like him?
They look very similar.
Really?
I mean, it is easy to see where people could be like, there's some serious similarities here.
Okay.
And I will post some of those photos on social media.
Yeah, and
Instagram, Twitter.
while we're talking about, I tell you, I listened to the Robert Kennedy. I think it was the Robert Kennedy tapes.
Or the RFK tapes.
The RFK tapes.
Isn't that what they're called? That podcast?
Yes.
You need to clarify. People don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. It was the RFK tapes.
Okay.
And it's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
If you're a conspiracy theorist, should you check it out?
Well, yeah. You don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist.
Well, yeah, but I think a lot of our listeners are like us and they have different tastes, right? And so we, even if we're not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, we're all interested in like the weird, spooky shit,
well, I'm telling you.
Conspiracy theorists, cults, like anything that's kind of out there.
Right.
And so I think our listeners like that out there shit, Dylan. So are you saying that this is something they would probably like?
Yeah, I think so. And even from a historical standpoint, you will learn a lot unless you've actually looked into this yourself or studied it in school or something.
Or you'll have your doctorate.
Yeah, but there was like the woman in the polka dot dress, the fact that Sirhan was wait, is that right? That's who killed Kennedy, right? Yeah, was a super patriot. Was telling people how much he loved Kennedy and shit. Don't remember the days leading up to it.
So he was talking about the United States. And like, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, basically.
Like the guy in Coming to America.
Well, in maybe a better accent,
like
but
like
he was all about America and love, and didn't own a gun, and all of a sudden he goes and gets a gun. He's spending all this time with, it's just
maybe he was listening to the Beatles and he decided that happiness was a warm gun.
Maybe it was MK Ultra.
OMG.
Manchurian fucking candidate. Okay? Yeah, don't even crack the lid on that shit unless you got like hours that you don't need to do other stuff.
Well, maybe we will crack that open here on Offbeat.
Oh, no, they can't. No, I don't want to get killed.
Well, I'm very excited because we do have some very fun, strange, kooky celebrity conspiracy theories that will be coming up here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to devote several episodes to this topic. I think it's fun. It'll be a nice break from true crime and maybe some of the other things we've talked about on the show.
One more thing I need to point out.
Please point it out.
Someone, you may remember on Instagram, told me what that podcast was I was trying to talk about the other day. I couldn't remember, about the Child Protective Services. I don't remember who it was, but I think
it was Claire.
It was Claire?
Claire.
Oh, thank you, Claire, for pointing that out on the gram. Was it Instagram?
It was Instagram.
Okay. That's how the cool people call it, the gram now. So I'm just letting you know. But anyway, it's called Do No Harm. And it's very interesting.
So another podcast suggestion.
Well, yeah, I'd made this. Yeah. But it was called Do No Harm, and it's about Child Protective Services overreacting, kind of targeting parents because they think they're right. And yeah, it's very good.
Well, thank you for the recommendation. You just gave us 2 new podcasts that maybe people haven't heard that we can all dive into.
Oh, my God. There's just so much out there.
Feet first.
So much out there, guys.
All right. Well, stick around this week. We're going to have a fun... I don't know if it could really be fun. We're going to have a very interesting topic coming up this weekend. We're going to get into a serial killer. Should I go ahead and let them know? We'll be talking about Arthur Shawcross.
You just did it.
He is a fucked up serial killer.
You can't take it back.
Nah, so we're going to bring you a fascinating episode on Arthur Shawcross. Surprisingly, he is a maniac. Like one of the worst of the worst. And there are not a lot of podcasts or documentaries out there covering this guy.
I don't think I'm even familiar with him, honestly.
Oh, man, it's a doozy, Dylan. A doozy.
Yeah, and if you want
to... Big Z.
Contact us, pop in, say hi, whatevs. Hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com, and we would love to read that stuff.
We love you guys, and we'll be back on Sunday with that Arthur Shawcross episode. Until then, what are we saying, Dylan?
Arrivederci?
Keep it dope.
Oh, keep it dope?
Cowabunga. Hang 10.
Let's go with keep it dope.
Keep it Brazil.
Wait, that's rad. Can we bring that back?
I say rad all the time.
These kids nowadays, they just make shit
Rad and bitchin' and gnarly. Yeah, I know. Dylan, you've gotten in this habit, and I know it's because you watch TikTok all the time, of saying no cap. And I don't know what the fuck that means.
That means for real. So I had to find out what it meant too, because people are like, no cap, no cap, no cap, no cap. I'm like, what the fuck's that one? Because it seems like you should be able to tell what they mean by the lingo.
Right.
Like if when back in the day when we were running around screaming that's rad, our moms and grandparents had to know that we thought that thing was good or cool, right?
Yeah.
Or that's bad, but actually good.
Right.
Things like, or the bomb. It was easy to figure out.
That's aces.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so groovy.
Yeah. So you still could know, but this stuff nowadays, and this must be my disconnect from, that's when you're starting to really get old, I guess.
Right.
I don't know what the fuck.
It's when you don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Flea.
Well, my daughter says, what is it? Period.
And
I can't say it. Like, I always practice because I'm like, because she says it with like the D and the T, like period. And I'm like, try to do it, and then she makes fun of me.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever be cool in their eyes.
Well, we won't, but we could start making up our own lingo. Like, when something's cool, we could just be like, yeah, man, that's tater tots.
Man,
you know why? Because I fucking love tater tots. And so if something is good, I'll be like, that's tater tots.
So I've always wanted to have a child or get an orphan child. And I've always...
You're just going to get an orphan? Like, what, they're just on the streets? Like, hanging out? They're like standing there with a bowl? Like, please, may I have some soup?
No, so this is like a thought exercise I do in my head.
Okay.
And so I want to get this orphan, or a woman can have the child. That's fine.
Okay, so he's got Annie or Oliver Twist in his head.
So I have the kid, and then I want to raise them in seclusion with just me as like their teacher.
Like Captain Fantastic?
Right. Well, I don't know what that means. No.
Did you see that film, Captain Fantastic?
No.
With Vigo?
Oh, no, I didn't watch it.
Okay.
No, I just started it one night, and you was like, oh, I've seen this, and so I turned it off.
Okay, so you're going to be Captain Fantastic. You're going to have this little orphan Annie kid, the little Matchbox girl or whatever.
Yeah.
Raising this child in seclusion.
And I just want to teach him the wrong names for shit. Like this really long play joke that's only funny to me. And then I'm going to take them when they're up older, like 15, heading maybe even towards adulthood. I'm going to take them into society, and then I'm just going to laugh like hell every time they call like a car a potato or, whatever, the refrigerator a shoe. I'm just going to fuck them up like that.
This sounds like the plot of an M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie.
What would it be called?
This is like a comedy version of like The Village or something.
Why is it you always figure out his movies like 10 minutes in, and then you're like totally, like you'll be pumped up to watch them, right? There's a new one coming out. I don't even know what it was, but you'll be pumped up to see it, you think, and then like you figure it out. Like I figured The Village out in like 8 minutes, like 10 minutes. Or maybe the first time.
He directed the one with the kid that sees dead people, right? The Bruce Willis movie.
Yeah.
What was that? The Sixth Sense. He did that, right?
Yeah.
I had that movie figured out in like the first 10 minutes.
Well, you always do that.
I know. I'm very good at figuring out movie plots.
If she can't figure it out, she will look it up before the movie's over.
Don't judge me.
She does this.
I need to know, Dylan.
Oh my God, we rambled.
We rambled.
I don't
It's okay.
care.
All right, guys. We will be back on Sunday. I hope you have a gnarly rest of your week. I'm waiting for you to say no cap.
No cap. Keep it potpourri, y'all.
Yeah, man. That's tater tots. Cool. Okay. We'll talk to you guys later.